Okay.
Now, I said it would be my turn to say welcome, didn't I? So I should do that, really. The only thing I worry about is that, now I'm going to do it still anyway, but you sound much bubblier than me, so you make it sound like it's going to be good fun.
Oh, it is good fun.
Yeah, all right. Well, I can't change my tone of voice, so it just sounds a bit businesslike. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
That's what I worry about.
Yeah.
But I do also agree with a fair division of labour. So, hello and welcome to Chats Over Coffee with my yoga teacher. So I'm Peter. I'm a stand-up comedian based in the UK, and I'm speaking to my yoga teacher, Kayla, also based in the UK, but not originally from the UK. But it doesn't matter, does it? I didn't even know if I need to mention that. So,
hi everyone.
So it's September.
Yes.
Have you got anything you're doing that you want to tell everyone about?
So I'm a little bit behind on my schedule planning, but you can expect a online class for the autumnal solstice, possibly a special class for this kind of harvest time and this time of year. I'm planning on doing some workshops. All of that will be online. And so you don't really have to be in the UK to participate. Obviously, time differences can't make a difference. Yeah, you can be anywhere in the world, but obviously...
Or on the moon. You could be listening to this in 2050. You could be on the moon.
You're going to miss the class, though, if you're listening to it in 2050. Most of the information gets sent out in my monthly email. So if you really want to know what I've got on, make sure you signed up for my monthly email. And it really is monthly. Don't worry, I'm not going to bombard you with loads of emails you don't want. It's all there. It's all on my website.
KaylaMcCormack.com.
Thank you.
There you go.
What about you? What have you got going on?
I'm going on holiday, actually. So that's just me bragging. But so don't rob my house. And... otherwise, there's just, I don't know, I do just have gigs. You can find out where I am if you want to see me do 20 minutes in front of strangers. It's peterbrushcomedy.com. Other than that, I just these are on YouTube now, these episodes. So if you go at COWMYT, is that right? Pod. Sorry. See, whatever Chats Over Coffee with my yoga teacher is an acronym, and then pod at the end of it, or just search for that. That has all the episodes on now as well. So if you prefer to listen on there or listen to themed ones, they're in different playlists and stuff now.
And I've started sharing that as well in my emails, so that link is also in my emails. When people get my monthly newsletter, they'll get the YouTube link as well, because I think that's really handy to have the YouTube link.
Yeah, it's very easy, isn't it, YouTube? And
we should at some point we should surprise everyone by recording the video and then putting that in as well.
I'd have to shave for that, don't you?
But we could show everyone how we're set up and how we talk.
I think it'd break the spell, wouldn't it? So.
Oh, no. Yeah, they think we're in a fancy studio.
Exactly, I think we're in a studio, yeah. And so should we, I don't know, just maybe, I think I've done a very bad job taking the lead here, but...
Yeah, well done for getting through what we've got on this month coming up. Now you can enjoy the show.
Thank you, you've saved it. You know, like, religion in the West is it's not in its heyday, is it? It's less popular than it was.
Okay.
But spirituality without religion has somewhat replaced it. So you're more likely to wear a crystal around your neck than a crucifix.
Okay.
But you know, like how, like, when there's an illness out there and you need to vaccinate a certain amount of people to get herd immunity, will the same thing happen now that there are fewer crucifixes around people's necks with vampires? Do you think they're going to come back?
Yes. Yeah, let's just say yes.
Well, it could be a conspiracy, couldn't it? Like, the whole thing could have been a vampire conspiracy to discredit religion and get people to not wear them anymore. Something to think about, isn't it?
I like that conspiracy theory. I'll hop on board with that one. And I'll also stay inside my house. So today, I thought we would talk about mudras. Is that what you said you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I want to know about mudras, but I don't know if people know what a mudra is, so...
Yeah, so you want to start from the beginning.
Yeah. So a mudra is, to me, it's just like moving your hands in different places and touching various fingers together, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
It's like poses for your hands.
Yeah, you could think of it like that. Yeah, so a yoga mudra is normally thought of as like a gesture with your hand. So like if you were to bring your thumb and your index finger together or something like that. Like that would be a mudra. And you see that in people meditating, positions with their hands. And if you ever look at some of the Buddhist statues, and there's quite a few different Buddhas, if you look at them, they've got their hands in some interesting positions as well, usually down by their hips and things, So if you're looking for them, you'll spy them. But it's worth mentioning that it's not necessarily restricted to just hands. There are a few yoga mudras that are full yoga poses, and I think even some breathing techniques and stuff. So the word mudra means seal, so like a lock, like a seal. And the idea is that it's like an energy lock. And I've read recently that it comes from two Sanskrit words, meaning like mudam and drava, so mudra, kind of a mixing of them both. And that means bliss or happiness. And then drava means like to draw forth or to bring. So it's kind of like the idea of kind of bringing forth like something more blissful. It's about kind of bringing that in, which is kind of interesting. But a lot of mudras have a meaning or like a point to them or a focus, which I could explain one if you want.
Nah.
No, don't want to.
No, go on, do.
Okay, so I'll explain one mudra. It's called Chin Mudra, which is a very common one, or Chin Mudra. I'm going to pop an accent on it. But it's the thumb and the index finger, and you just bring them together. So you make a circle with your hand, and then the other fingers
like
just kind of go wherever
okay.
they're comfortable. Yeah, okay.
Although that's racist now, isn't it? That's the white.
Is it?
Yeah, isn't that the... some people have said that that's still like a white supremacy signal now.
I don't get out enough, obviously.
Yeah, well, you're not online enough about the sound of things.
Okay, well, that's new to me. Ignoring that... Just to explain that a little bit more, you bring your thumb and your index finger together, but the back of the hand is facing down. So you can rest your hands on your lap or on your knees or something. So the index finger and the thumb is facing up towards the ceiling. So that's kind of...
Yes, it's not the same as the...
It's not the same as like having them down by your sides or, something like that.
It's not the same as holding one hand up and doing the okay sign, Like,
yeah, exactly. It does look different.
It does, yeah, okay.
So...
I'll stop being
now
a prick
you're throwing me
sorry.
off my game now. It's fine. So going over the idea of mudras, they're that symbol, that lock, and the idea is there's a form or concept there that we're trying to embody. So if you talk about Chin Mudra, the thumb is a symbol of cosmic, or you could say divine, something large, like that. And the index finger is a symbol of individual, so humanity and consciousness. So when we bring them together, we're bringing those together. So the ultimate goal of yoga is that oneness. So then you kind of say like, because hatha, sun, moon, it's about finding balance and bringing them together, that yin and that yang. So those two things that you, in a sense, your individuality or individual human consciousness with like a cosmic consciousness or divine, and you're kind of bringing those together. And then that is like, this is a desire. You've got a desire to see something beyond yourself, to feel something bigger than just you, to know that there's something out there. So then that's kind of part of that. The other thing is in Chinese medicine, this is a root around the metal element. So in Chinese 5 medicine, you have that. Metal is a bit of an odd term, but that's what they use. They use a lot of terms that I find a little bit odd in Chinese medicine. I don't know much about it, but they say that obviously because it's the best connector, when you're bringing them together, this is your connection, the cosmic world and inspiration, intuition all dwell in that element. So then that's that symbol for their kind of metal thing as well. So you've got the energy from the outside and then the energy from the inside. So you're kind of combining both divine and human, inside and outside. And then in the gesture, you've got a closed loop. So you've got this closed kind of unity. And I know you could think of it as like the small and the large, the macro and the micro. There's like so many layers or ways to think about the same concept. What we're trying to do when we take something like Chin Mudra is the idea that we're kind of digging into these kind of old texts and feelings and trying to embody them as best we can. So when you look up mudras and what each individual mudra means, you'll find... you can find just like a simple definition, like hand movements or locks or seals, but you'll also find something very long-winded and explanatory and might repeat itself in different ways, like I'm doing now. So it becomes very like, what? But basically what they're just trying to explain something in a way that resonates. So you could say you and God. You can say, outside energy and inside energy. You can say, that metal conducting circle that goes round and round, and that energy in the hands. It's just so many different ways of saying the same thing. But that's just one mudra. And then there are like very physical benefits. So obviously, when you take mudras, you are kind of using your hand sensory areas of the brain. So waking up that kind of area of the brain, actually making sure the brain is active and in use. And that kind of goes hand in hand with, like, when people who read Braille, and they have better use of that area of the brain. Like, you can do scans, and their brain, that part of their brain is a bit more switched on because they read in Braille. So it is like that. It's like training the brain to keep healthy and switch on. So there's a very physical side of it as well. For me, when I tend to do it in a yoga class, especially if you'll see it sometimes in dancer's pose when you're taking a balance, I like to do that because it gives you something to focus on. So not just like with your eyes. You can look at it with your eyes if you're not too wobbly, but it also gives you something to feel. So you can, feel your fingerprints together. You can feel the pressure, and it just gives your brain something to do that isn't worrying about falling over. So it's just another way to focus as well. But basically, your mudras can be kind of whatever you want. I think there's like 25 mudras in Hatha yoga, and there's more in like Kundalini yoga. So there's quite a lot out there, and you can slightly change them. So if you like the idea of your chin mudra being, human and cosmic, when you put one over the other, that could mean something slightly different. But then on one side, you could say that that's your opinion. So you could say that means something different. Like if you hold the finger down with the thumb, you could say, oh, well, universe is trying to give me more or something like that. There's loads to it. But I think it really is a representation of what you're trying to achieve internally.
Okay.
Okay. What else could I say? So it works with your subtle body, your mental body, your subtle body, the energy channels that run through the body on like your nadis and your prana and your chakras, if you want to say stuff like that. That is the idea of them as well, is that it's supposed to be channeling that kind of energy through the body. So you're making connections somewhere to try and focus that energy. And then it brings your mind into focus as well, because obviously they symbolize something that you're supposed to remember what they symbolize. And then that concept is there with you during your.
Do you think that when you're doing it then, or do you just? Because I just feel like it's slightly. They're often slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah, when you hold your hands.
Yeah, when you hold your hands in different positions, it's just like, to me, it's just a slightly uncomfortable thing. I'm not really thinking about any connections or anything. And in my head, I sort of think, because it's slightly uncomfortable, it must be good for me. In a way, do you know?
Well, yeah, a bit of that, yeah.
I mean, in terms of forming connections and stuff, like doing something that's like, as long as it's not painful, like maybe.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's like.
Well, we do quite a few in the brain class that I taught, because it does work the brain. It's a challenge. That coordination and stuff. So yeah, if you come at it from that point of view, there's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine.
So, but just going back slightly, when you said this, so the chin mudra, is that what it's called? Chin or shin?
CHIN, yeah, like your chin.
Chin, yeah.
But you could put teen, and then it sounds a little bit foreign.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to butcher an accent. You said that there's a Chinese sort of way of looking at it, sort of, but that suggested that there are other. Or not origins, but other. So maybe there's an Indian way or a Nepalese way or something as well.
Yeah. So Chin Mudra will most likely be Indian from that country. The Chinese 5 elementary theory brings that these two fingers are the metal element.
But it's the same
they're
pose.
The metal line, and it's the same.
So what's the not entomology? Like, is that what you say? Is entomology when?
Is that a word, or is that one of the bugs?
No, it's I'm not sure. Is it entomology or one of them's bugs?
One's entomology and one's etymology. One of them's bugs and one of them's words.
One of them's words. Yeah.
We'll let the listeners decide.
Neither of them really mean what I'm trying to say, but certainly the bugs one doesn't. But so instead of being the origin of the word, so the actual thing is the same, but there's two different interpretations of it. So at one point, as someone sort of not nicked it, but made it their own, sort of.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're talking about these kind of stuff because this is like over 5,000 years old.
I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you which one to figure out which one nicked it or anything. I'm just saying.
Well, I wouldn't try even if he asked.
No, but you know that's what culture is anyway, isn't it? It's just like using things that work for other people and then giving your own interpretations on it. Sometimes, I mean, it's like how Greek like thought changes Christian thought, and at some point they're just like or whatever, and how the Romans co-opted. Christianity, like it's the same kind of thing in some ways. Like I'm not trying to find out who did it first, but it's interesting that the same thing seems to work for both of them, but they've got maybe slightly different interpretations as to what they're actually doing.
I think for specifically this kind of side of things, when we start talking about like the subtle body is what we call it in yoga, which is like your nadis, your energy flow, your chakras, your sushumna. So usually that's imagined to go up the spine. That's the serpent that sits at the base of the spine. But basically the idea is that you have these energies. But I have found for my own like deciding what I want to understand or accept or move into, that our language is a little bit limited, and sometimes we put concepts into words, and obviously things that are really old, they didn't have ways of explaining it like we would explain it now. So I think that when you talk about working with the subtle body, a way to think about that is working with your automatic nervous system. So things that happen without you having to choose them to happen. Like you don't have to think to breathe. You don't have to tell your heart to pump. You don't do those things. They're all automatic. So I think sometimes when we work with the subtle body and the way they describe the subtle body and movements and techniques and things to work with your subtle body, it's almost like working with your nervous system. So if you struggle with the idea of chakras and nadis and chi and energy flows and things like that, just think of it in terms of your nervous system, because that is a very healthy way to look at it. And you do have a nervous system and it's full of energy. Fast as light, so that you can move your body.
Yeah, you sort of said that before, that you wouldn't have had the knowledge of the nervous system and those frameworks years ago, so you would call it something else, and they may have been a bit more mystical back then, whereas we're just hardcore cynics these days, aren't we? But and
the mystical side of it could be our interpretation as well. They might not have felt that it was mystical.
I guess that's a good point.
They might have said that was very physical. Especially when you talk about things like acupuncture, where they literally are poking, something into your skin. So they're not going to think that that's mystical, even though we would interpret it that as mystical now, because it's like, oh, your energy line and you poke it. You know what I mean?
Was that it's sort of Orientalism, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, that's Chinese medicine, yeah.
No, I mean, like, isn't that the way that the Western world romanticizes Eastern thought and stuff?
Oh, as being mystical.
Yeah, when really it's a little bit like... Well, condescending in some ways, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it is a little bit condescending, because I think there's a lot of truth behind it. And I think a lot of these old systems as well emphasize your thoughts a lot more than any Western medicine I've ever seen. Like, I mean, obviously we have psychiatrists in therapy, and I'm not saying that. And we know that there are psychological disorders that come from stress, say, and stuff like that. So I'm not saying that we don't realize that. But I think that in the West, we don't emphasize it quite as much as we could do, in terms of like, have you tried meditating every day? Have you tried this? Have you tried, I think we're very happy to give pills and send people on their way.
Well, we've got a different, we do think medicine's, I think we give it not too much credence, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we sometimes see it as the evolving thing that it is. And I think it's more in its infancy than maybe we want to let ourselves believe it to be, and in 20 years time we'll look back at some of the things we do now and think that was barbaric, because if you look at some of the things,
oh my god, I can't believe we did that.
Well, look at the lack of knowledge about certain things 20 years ago and some of the practices we would have been doing then. I mean, maybe you sort of slowly move forward in some ways, and everything maybe slowly sort of incrementally gets better with evidence-based stuff and whatever, but it's a bit of I think it's a bit seductive to think that people have cracked it now.
I just think there is so much that we just don't know, and there's also a lot that perhaps we kind of know, but it's not in anyone's best interest to tell the world. So that sounds a bit conspiracy theory, but I just mean like you have to admit, everyone's going to agree to some extent. I'm just saying, everyone will agree to some extent that if there's no money or real thing behind what they found or this data or something that they've decided, it's going to get less attention.
Or antibiotics, there's no incentive to create new antibiotics because the money is not there, whereas the money's all in, other stuff.
Yeah, it's a similar idea. I mean, for another idea that I've thought recently, and I'm sure this has been for at least the last 5 years or more, I think, but there's been a lot about gut health, but one of the things about gut health has been the bacteria, and the way we grow our food on an industrial scale is there's nothing there. Well, I mean, the Soil Association push it so much because they're our soil is dead. There's nothing in it. You can take the soil, there's nothing there. There's no microbes, there's no bugs, there's nothing in it because we keep spraying it with pesticides and things. But what they've decided, and what other people have decided as well, is we need that. We need that dirt. We need in our stomachs, actually inside of us, because if we don't replenish it every few hours, they die and that's it. So we need it. So the fact that we're sterile in our way of making things is making us have problems with our digestion. And I don't just mean going to the loo or feeling a bit bloated. I mean gaining weight, feeling hungry all the time, getting angry, feeling tired, all of these things that are life-changing problems you could go to the doctor for and get diagnosed with, chronic fatigue because you're tired all the time. It could just be having no dirt.
Yeah, that's it.
Your food's not dirty and there's no bugs, you know what I mean? But this is kind of new information, but it's not really I don't know, they're not doing weird transplants or anything, trying to put bugs back inside of you if you're ill. So it's obviously an area we could definitely improve in. And obviously I'm not a doctor. I haven't done any research on it. I just read about it and then go, woo! But it is definitely there because they've done loads of experiments and loads of tests on twin subjects and all this kind of stuff. So it's definitely a problem when you don't have that microbiome that's really healthy. And I think we definitely all know that now. But not eating some sauerkraut is not going to put that back. All of your food has to be more natural and more buggy than it is when you just buy, your sterile apples and stuff. But I mean, obviously some people have loads of problems from it and some people might not have any problems from it, which is another not very great thing for science because science wants things to be clear cut and straightforward. And
well, that just means that it's going to take hundreds of years to get the data rather than,
Exactly.
10.
And I mean, I read even that breathing in, if you go to the woods and you breathe in the smell of the trees and the soil and the rotting vegetation and leaves and stuff like that, even that, you are breathing in bacteria and bugs and fungus and stuff. And that is something your body needs. That will go into your digestive system even. So it's even just being outside could help you.
It's sort of stigmatized the idea of bacteria, isn't it? Because of the bad ones. It's
yeah, because obviously it was bad, and some of it is really dangerous for you and stuff.
It's how racists think about all certain ethnic groups, don't they? One or two, they think they're all the same, but they're not.
They're not all the same.
I read Bill Bryson's book about science recently. And it's quite all-encompassing and stuff. So there's but it's detailed enough to feel like you're learning. But he sort of basically says in it, he's talking about bacteria. And it sort of makes it sound as if that we basically are bacteria and that...
Have we got that much in us that we just are bacteria?
Pretty much we are, yeah. Or that...
That's amazing.
They use us, and we're just a vessel for them, really. All of our functions wouldn't happen without them at all, would they? So...
Yeah. I mean, loads of things, not just your digestion, that's just one example, but loads of things need them to work properly.
And they're eating your skin at the right, I mean, isn't something, I think that I read in there, it said that if you had a pillow, over a couple of years or something, then about, half of it is going to be dead insects and weight of dead skin that,
Ew.
But you can't see it, so...
But it's natural, right?
Yeah,
the whole idea that we should be sterile is weird. I don't know. Yeah. Just go off what you can see. If it looks clean.
Well, if you can't actually see them writhing about, it's not really going to bother, is it? So.
Well, even I've heard that there are some cheeses that you can leave out on the side and watch them change shape.
Oh, have you heard about that cheese in? It's a delicacy in Italy, but you can't eat it legally, so you have to buy it on the black market, and it's got. I forget the name of it, but it's basically got. You're going to pull a face and go ooh when I say this, but it's got live maggots in it when you eat it. and I forget the name of it, but it's like, it's a delicacy. It's supposed to be really nice. It's not. I don't think it's vegetarian.
I'm just imagining guys in like black trench coats passing cheese in dark alleyways.
Like the mafia.
Got cheese. It is
exactly.
Mafia
country. So
I've got cheese.
Yeah. But I forget the name of it. But it's a delicacy. It's supposed to be really good, and it'd be like one of those ones which probably smells rancid, but it's quite nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a bit crunchy.
I don't know. I was thinking squidgies to me, but I've never actually eaten that kind of insect before. I don't think.
I'm not sure whether it's actually unhealthy or whether it's, there is a regulation issue with it or something. I don't know.
Well, I know there's a lot of regulation issues in the US with certain types of cheeses and stuff that they just take. What do we like to say? Health and safety gone mad or whatever. Sometimes they've just gone a little bit too far, and there's actually nothing wrong with it. Like some of the cheeses here wouldn't be legal in America and stuff like that, even though there's nothing wrong with them and they're perfectly safe.
It's the woke cheese
probably actually
board.
a bit good for you. Exactly. Anyway, I feel like we've gone a bit off tangent, but basically, I think that coming back to the fact that modern medicine that you would go to a doctor for is really good if you have a serious problem, but the best thing you can do is take your health into your own hands and educate yourself. And one of the best things you can do for your body is notice what's going on in your mind, because that's one of the biggest things that will affect how you feel. And what's like literally, if you are constantly stressed, you will be ill. Your body will get ill. Something will happen. It will show up physically. So I think maybe old medicines used to put a lot more focus onto the mental side of things, like having control, or like these mudras being seals, locking something in or trying to gain something or get something. If you feel lethargic or really sad or disconnected or something, you could potentially think about taking Chin Mudra to connect you with the world again, to connect you with other people and with the wholeness. And then even if it doesn't actually do anything from like scanning you with x-rays and stuff and looking and trying to figure out actually if anything is happening. Even if it doesn't matter if your mindset has changed. Because if you feel better from it, then it's worked.
Yeah, it must be a very difficult thing to... I saw someone I like a lot, share a thing the other day showing some article that said no actual physical benefits measured from mindfulness or meditation practice. But then I sort of thought, well, how would you measure it anyway? Like, it's very... Have you got something that contradicts that?
Well, you can continue your thought while I find
your eyebrows are twitching there in a very mischievous sort of way. But then, that study may well say that, but I was sort of thinking it must be a very, very difficult thing to tangibly, So what's this other study then? The one you were about to show me that...
Well, the thing that I remembered that I was looking up was actually it talks about yoga nidras. So it's a type of meditation that's guided. And that said, it gives me. I don't think that's English. That it shows a little chart, and then on the chart are all these waves, kind of like sound waves, but they're
Where's
brain
this book
frequency
come from?
waves.
This book, is this produced by Big Yoga? Like.
Yeah, it's produced by Big Yoga, and Big Yoga says that. It goes through the waves in the brain, and it says gamma waves are when you're fully awake. Beta waves are when you're fully awake, but conscious and thinking and stuff. And alpha waves are your first stage of sleep. Theta waves are your next stage of sleep, so subconscious. So alpha waves are when you're relaxing, and theta waves are when you're kind of a bit subconscious, a bit tired, very relaxed. But delta waves are like a deep, dreamless sleep. So when you're really resting, when your brain kind of really switches off or whatever, and it's unconscious and rejuvenation. So basically, what they were saying here was that there is evidence to show that as you meditate, it doesn't replace, because a lot of people say that yoga nidra replaces your sleep, like it's like yogic sleep. But actually, they're saying that it's not yogic sleep, it's more like relaxation. And meditation brings you gamma waves, which is your most alert waves in your brain, but not in like an anxious kind of way, just like really switched on, really clear, really easy to think, like no brain fog, like your best brain day you've ever had, where everything just seems to click and you understand everything. That's the state you supposedly get to during meditation. So in some ways, they have measured the benefits, whether that's enough of a measurement or whether that's physical or something. But if you were really clear and never had any foggy brain days, surely that would make you a little bit more happy. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
you kind of have a knock-on effect.
Well,
if you want to try and measure it that way.
I think I'd want to believe that, and I think it probably would have a positive physical benefit. I'm just wondering when we actually come to studies and stuff, how measurable something is, and then
I think it's
you
really
have to have
difficult to
control
measure a lot of
studies
stuff.
and all that sort of thing. So, as I said, like I think it took them years to, even though they kind of knew smoking was bad, I think it did take them a long time to, rule out.
Plus, there was all
things.
The people paying the legislators.
Oh yeah,
or whatever.
of course. Yeah. So, I'm glad that doesn't happen anymore. But, so these other, were you about to say something else there?
No, go for it.
I'm just thinking of, I can't think of any specific mudras that I've done but I'm just sort of I'm just thinking of all of the emojis that they have for like hand like things. It's not like Spock or something.
Yeah, I don't think that's a mudra, but you can do it. Anything can be a mudra if you want it to be. I suppose that's what we've decided today, right? Though that does make me feel more like a chameleon than a
Vulcan.
than a Vulcan. But like lotus mudra, so that's where you put the wrists together, pinkies together, thumbs together, and all the other fingers spread out wide. That's a good one.
Like the Sarlacc pit in Star Wars. Yeah.
Yes.
A bit. Well, Venus flytrap, maybe.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like
that. I could probably find some more.
I mean, do you have any favourites? I mean, is there anything, ones you like doing? And if there are, why are they your favourites?
Buddy, I don't know how to say some of these words, to be perfectly honest. But it's Buddih. So with the double D's, do you pronounce the U differently? Anyway, Buddhi Mudra is your thumb.
I don't know the
and
etymology of the...
Yeah, I don't know about these bugs and these mudras, but... But it's your thumb and your pinky, and then the rest of the fingers go up straight. I find that one really difficult because my pinky and my ring finger are very connected, and so when you bring your pinky and your thumb together, the ring finger wants to kind of come down. It doesn't always want to stay up. If you hold the top of the nail of the pinky, then that's a heck of a lot easier. But if you try to bring the tips of the fingers together, it's going to make your ring fingers not want to stay straight.
Oh, yeah. I think that's...
they kind of do this little like, no. So that's one of my favourite.
Your ring finger's a bit of a rebel, isn't it?
It is. It's a real rebel. So that's one of my favourites because I find that difficult to hold. I find that quite nice. But really, I really like Lotus Mudra for when you're balancing and stuff. That's quite nice. It's got a nice mental image as well, like the idea of the lotus flower being... The reason why you see it so much in yoga is because it's this beautiful thing that has stemmed from this horrible, mucky undergrowth. So lotus flowers don't tend to grow in really clean lakes. They have to be little kind of stagnant and a bit dirty, and it's got a lot of soil and stuff in it. So it's not like, oh, I'll go swimming with the lotus flowers. So they rise above all the mud. And even though we could say it's clean in terms of like, you wouldn't get sick, but like it's not clean as in like you come out with mud on you and stuff, But, they rise above all of that and they sit on the surface and they're, it's this idea of, there's loads of methods of thinking about, one world being above the water and the other beneath and things like that. I know people use that as a way to describe death sometimes, when they say like, because dragonflies live for a long time in the water and then when they leave, they can't get back in the water, but they're still alive. I think sometimes that's used as a euphemism for death as well and stuff. Yeah. I don't know if that's...
We haven't done an episode about death yet.
No, we haven't. Is that a bit dark? I'm not sure. Oh, we all die though, maybe.
We do, yeah. And then all of our molecules get reused, so that's nice, isn't it? So
yeah.
That's another thing Bill Bryson said. I've said it before about how your molecules would have been some other person. But he said that he said that in the book, and this was written 20 years ago, so a part of you could have been a part of Shakespeare or someone like that, but it's not soon enough for part of your body to formally have been Elvis. Apparently more time needs to pass before the Elvis molecules make their way into...
Darn.
So that's all for mudras then. We're happy with that?
Yeah, I'm really happy with that. I mean, I'll have to listen back to it, but I think I'm happy with that. I feel like I jabbered a lot, so I must have done something right.
Yeah, well, yeah. The thing is, when you jabber and you listen to your own jabbering, you think you're jabbering, but other people aren't as self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, sometimes I think like, oh my God, because when you're talking, you don't hear, like, if you had a transcript of someone writing what you were saying as you were saying it, then maybe you could be like, oh yeah, I'm on track. But because you're like just talking, and then afterwards you're like, what did I even say? Did I just say a load of nonsense? Because you can't remember from like a diction style. You can't remember what you said. So it's kind of like, did I say everything? Did I say too much? Did I ramble? So when I listen back, then I judge myself. I try to be a bit open and not just think I sound stupid. But sometimes I feel like I sound rambly, and then I listen to it and I think, oh no, that sounds fine. So
mudras is fine. That's that then.
Yes.
So next week, deaf or next
man.
episode.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Obviously, love to hear any comments, anything you want to say. Reach out.
If you want to tell other people about the show, that'd be good. We wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
Got to express
It'd be
permission.
nice if you want to spread the love,
So if you're not subscribed, press subscribe and put nice comments on YouTube, whatever you want to do. Press that thumbs up button.
Yeah.
Should we just go?
Yeah, I think that's great.